Your heart is pounding, your face feels hot, and the words flying back and forth are no longer about the original problem. Another argument has spiraled out of control, leaving you feeling drained and regretful. This reactive cycle is something most of us know all too well. But what if you could face those exact same conflicts with unshakable calm and clarity? The ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers exactly that, a mental toolkit used for centuries to master emotional turbulence. In this journey, we will uncover 25 specific Stoic beliefs that rewire your response to conflict, transforming it from a source of distress into an opportunity for growth. You will discover how to remain the calmest person in any room, no matter how heated the situation becomes. We will explore why some people seem immune to insult and how a simple shift in perspective can dissolve anger before it even forms. What is the single most important thing you truly control when someone is yelling in your face? And how can loving your fate, even the difficult parts, set you free? These are just a few of the mysteries we will solve together. What does staying cool in a conflict mean to you personally? That moment when conflict erupts, your first instinct is often to control the other person, to make them stop, to force them to see reason. But this instinct is the very source of your suffering. The foundational belief of Stoicism, the one that changes everything, is to focus only on what is within your power. The ancient Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. Your opinions, your impulses, your desires, your aversions, these are yours to command. Everything else, from the words someone shouts at you to the actions they take, is ultimately not your concern. It is external. Think of it like this: you are the captain of your own ship. You can control how you steer, how you adjust the sails, how you react to the storm. But you cannot control the storm itself. You cannot command the wind or the waves. In a heated argument, this means your only true task is to manage your own judgments and your response. The other person's anger, their insults, their refusal to listen, these are simply weather conditions. They are part of the storm. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, a profound shift occurs. The emotional charge simply drains away. Imagine your colleague is publicly criticizing your work, their voice sharp with contempt. Your old pattern might be to fire back, to defend yourself, to try and force them to be respectful. You are trying to control their behavior, and you feel yourself getting hot, your heart racing. Now apply the Stoic belief. Pause for just one breath and ask yourself, what here is truly mine to control? Can I make my colleague stop talking? No. Can I force them to be kind? No. Those are their waves. But can I control my judgment about their words? Yes. I can choose not to see their outburst as a catastrophic personal attack, but as a reflection of their own frustration. Can I control my reaction? Absolutely. I can choose to respond with a calm tone or to simply listen until they have finished. The moment you make that internal shift, the conflict loses its power over you. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by another person's actions. You become the calm captain in the center of the squall, and that is a position of immense strength. That calmness in the storm is not just a reaction, it is a state you build long before the clouds even appear. The Stoics had a powerful mental drill for this called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds dark, but its purpose is profoundly liberating. This is the practice of deliberately visualizing potential conflicts and setbacks in your mind before they happen. You are not doing this to worry or to live in fear. You are doing it to inoculate yourself against the shock of adversity. Think of it as a fire drill for your emotions. When a real fire alarm sounds, you do not panic because you have practiced the exit route 100 times in your head. Your response is measured, automatic, and effective. Negative visualization works on the exact same principle. Take a common source of tension, like a difficult conversation with your boss. Instead of dreading it and hoping it never happens, you actively spend a few moments considering it. You mentally walk through the scenario. What if they criticize your project harshly? What if they dismiss your ideas? You feel the initial sting of that possibility, but then you sit with it. You contemplate how you would want to respond. You would remain calm, you would listen, you would ask clarifying questions. You would focus on what you can control, your own composure, and your next logical step. By visiting this potential future in your mind, you are draining it of its emotional power. So when you walk into that meeting and the criticism does come, it is not a shocking, disorienting surprise. It is a scenario you have already faced and navigated successfully in your mind. The event loses its ability to trigger a raw, angry reaction. The disagreement becomes something you anticipated, something you are prepared for, and your response can be thoughtful instead of heated. This practice transforms conflict from a terrifying monster into a manageable challenge. What other difficult conversation could you disarm simply by facing it in your imagination first? That mental rehearsal carves a path for a deeper shift in perception. The Stoics believed that every single obstacle, every conflict, is not a roadblock on your path, it is the path itself. It is an opportunity to practice the very virtues you wish to embody. When someone challenges you, that is not a moment of failure, it is the gymnasium for your character. The frustration you feel is the weight you need to build your patience. The fear of confrontation is the resistance that strengthens your courage. The confusion of disagreement is the puzzle that sharpens your wisdom. A disagreement with a family member is no longer just a stressful argument about holiday plans or finances. Viewed through this lens, it becomes a live exercise in patience. Your goal shifts from winning the argument to practicing understanding. A professional setback, like a project rejection, transforms from a personal indictment into a rigorous test of wisdom. Your task is not to sulk, but to ask, what can I learn from this feedback? How can this criticism make my next attempt stronger? The obstacle itself becomes the training ground. Think of a time you are cut off in traffic. The immediate, raw reaction is anger, maybe even shouting. But what if, in that moment, you saw it as an unexpected pop quiz in self-control? The other driver's action is the question, and your breath, your decision not to escalate, that is your answer. You are not passively enduring the situation, you are actively using it. You are scoring points for your own development. This reframe is incredibly empowering because it takes the sting out of adversity. The world is no longer happening to you, it is providing you with the exact raw materials you need to build a better version of yourself. The most frustrating person in your life becomes your most demanding and therefore most valuable teacher. What virtue could you practice the next time you feel your temper start to rise? This radical acceptance leads to a principle that might sound almost impossible at first. Amor fati, a Latin phrase that means a love of one's fate. It is the conscious decision to not just grudgingly accept what happens, but to embrace it. To see every event, including every conflict and every setback, as a necessary thread in the tapestry of your life. The Stoics believed the universe is a rational, interconnected whole. Everything that occurs is part of that natural order. When you fight against what has already happened, you are like a person shaking their fist at the rain. Your resistance does not stop the storm, it only soaks you to the bone and leaves you miserable. Amor fati is the decision to love the rain, to see its purpose, and to find the good in being wet. How does this apply to a conflict? Imagine a major disagreement with your business partner that causes a project to fail. The immediate, painful reaction is to rage against the situation. To dwell on how unfair it is, how your partner was wrong, how this never should have happened. You are fighting reality, and that internal war is where your suffering truly lies. Now apply amor fati. This disagreement, this failure was fated to occur. It is now a fact. To love your fate means to look at that collapsed project and say, good. This is not a passive resignation. It is an active, powerful engagement. You say good because this failure has revealed a critical flaw in your partnership that you can now address. You say good because it has taught you a brutal but invaluable lesson about communication you would have never learned otherwise. You say good because this specific setback has now set you on a new, unexpected path that may lead to something far better. The moment you stop arguing with what is, your energy is freed. You are no longer wasting it on the futile effort to change the past. Instead, you can pour all of that focus into constructively engaging with the present moment. The conflict is no longer a disaster to be mourned. It becomes fertilizer for your future growth. What difficult event in your own life could you start to see not as a curse, but as a necessary and even welcome part of your story? Your argument feels like the most important event in the universe, but how true is that really? The Stoics developed a powerful thought experiment to answer this very question, called the view from above. It is a mental exercise where you deliberately zoom out from your immediate situation, rising higher and higher until your personal conflict is seen in its true context as one tiny part of a vast, interconnected cosmos. Close your eyes for a moment and try it. Picture the room you are in from the ceiling, then pull back further. See your entire building, then your neighborhood, your city. Keep going. See the continent from space, a beautiful blue and green marble. From this vantage point, where is that heated disagreement with your neighbor about the property line? Where is your frustration over a critical email? They become invisible, lost in the sheer scale of existence. This is not meant to make your problems feel meaningless, but to correct a distorted sense of proportion. Your ego wants to magnify every slight, to treat every conflict as a world-ending crisis. The view from above shrinks that inflated ego back down to its proper size. When you feel that surge of self-righteous anger in a debate, pause and take that mental flight. See the two of you as small figures in a room, in a house, on a street, on a planet hurtling through an infinite universe. The specific point you are so desperately trying to win suddenly seems less urgent. This cosmic perspective does not make you indifferent, it makes you wise. It allows you to engage with the issue at hand without the suffocating weight of personal pride. The goal is no longer to defend your fragile self-image, but to simply address the matter with clarity and grace. That argument that felt so monumental an hour ago is now just a brief conversation between two specks of stardust. How much more peacefully could you speak, and how much more clearly could you listen from that expansive point of view? That cosmic perspective helps you see the argument for what it truly is and what it is not. It is not the event itself that causes your anger, but the story you instantly tell yourself about it. This is the core of the sixth Stoic belief, a truth from Epictetus that changes everything. He said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." More precisely, it is your judgment of what happens that truly shapes your experience. The conflict is just a neutral event, a set of words and actions. Your opinion about that event, the meaning you assign to it, is what creates the emotional storm. That moment of insult is just a sound in the air until your mind labels it as a devastating attack on your character. Your colleague's criticism is just feedback until you judge it as a malicious attempt to undermine you. The distress does not live in the action, it lives in your interpretation. The power, then, lies in the space between the event and your reaction. It is in that tiny, crucial pause where you can intercept your automatic judgment and examine it. Your partner forgets an important date. The raw, unexamined judgment might be, "They do not care about me." This thought brings immediate hurt and anger. But what if you pause and challenge that initial story? Is it absolutely true they do not care? Could there be another explanation? Perhaps they are overwhelmed with work, or they simply made a human error. The event is the same, but by shifting your judgment, you completely change your emotional landscape. You move from feeling wounded to feeling understanding. This is not about suppressing your feelings, it is about tracing them back to their source. The next time you feel that heat of conflict rising, try this. Take one breath and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this situation? Is this story a fact, or is it just one possible interpretation? By questioning your judgments, you take back your power. You are no longer a passive victim of your first thought. You become the editor of your own mind, and in doing so, you discover that most conflicts are not fought with other people, but with the assumptions you never stop to question. That initial story you tell yourself in a conflict almost always casts you as the hero and the other person as the villain. But what if that story is fundamentally flawed? The Stoics proposed a radical alternative called sympatheia, the belief in the profound interconnectedness of all rational beings. We are not isolated islands shouting at each other across an empty sea. We are all part of the same living organism, limbs of a single body. The person standing across from you in a disagreement, no matter how wrong they seem, is a fellow limb. They are a human being who, just like you, is acting according to their own judgments about what is good and right. This is not a call for weak permissiveness, but for a deeper, more resilient form of understanding. When you genuinely see your adversary as a part of the same whole, the desire for retaliation begins to evaporate. Retaliating against them would be like your right hand angrily punching your left hand for dropping a cup. It makes no sense because the pain is shared by the entire body. Your goal shifts from defeating them to understanding them because their well-being is, in a very real sense, tied to your own. Imagine you are in a line at the grocery store and the person behind you snaps at you for taking too long. Your first judgment might be, what a rude and impatient person. You feel your own irritation flare, ready to snap back, but then you recall sympatheia. You remember that this person is a limb of the same body. You turn and see the exhaustion in their eyes, the stress in their posture. You do not know their story. Perhaps they just came from a draining day at work, or they are rushing to care for a sick child. Their snap was not an attack on your character, but the frustrated cry of a struggling part of your own shared humanity. This shift does not excuse their behavior, but it completely transforms your reaction. Instead of meeting their frustration with your own, you might offer a simple, calm apology for the delay. You drain the tension from the situation because you no longer see an enemy to be conquered, but a fellow traveler having a difficult moment. This belief asks you to extend a profound generosity of spirit, to assume that people are doing the best they can with the understanding they have, even when their best is painfully flawed. The next time you feel the urge to retaliate, ask yourself a simple question. If we are all connected, what kind of echo do I want my response to create in our shared world? Generosity of spirit, however, does not mean you must engage with every single provocation that comes your way. The eighth Stoic belief is a masterclass in discernment, the art of choosing your battles with wisdom. Not every disagreement deserves your energy, and not every critic merits a response. The Stoics called this practical wisdom, the virtue of knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. Your peace of mind is a precious resource, and to spend it on every minor slight is like using a priceless sword to swat at a fly. It is a wasteful and exhausting way to live. Consider the constant, low-grade friction of daily life. A stranger makes a snippy comment online, a driver honks at you aggressively, a relative makes a passive-aggressive remark at a family dinner. Your initial, ego-driven impulse is to fire back, to correct, to defend your territory. But is that truly the virtuous path, or is it merely your pride demanding satisfaction? The Stoic asks a different question. Will engaging in this conflict serve a greater good, or will it simply feed my own anger? Will my response improve the situation or simply escalate it? If the answer is no, then the most powerful and dignified action is to simply let it pass. This is not weakness. It is a profound form of strength. It takes far more courage to walk away from a pointless argument than it does to dive headfirst into the fray. You are not running from a fight. You are consciously choosing to reserve your energy for the conflicts that truly matter. the ones where your principles are at stake or where you can genuinely affect a positive change. Think of the last time you wasted an entire evening fuming over a rude comment from someone you will never see again. That was a battle you chose to fight in your mind, and you lost precious hours of peace for absolutely no gain. Now imagine letting that comment go the moment it was spoken, like a leaf floating past on a river. Your inner calm remains completely intact, and you are free to focus on what truly enriches your life. By refusing to engage with every minor provocation, you declare that your inner peace is more valuable than winning a petty argument. You are not a doormat, you are a fortress with the gate wisely closed to trivial invaders. What minor conflict from your recent past could you have simply allowed to dissolve into silence? Words are like fire, a powerful tool that can either warm a room or burn the whole house down. The Stoics understood this intimately, which is why they championed the ninth belief, to speak little and well. In the heat of conflict, the temptation is to unleash a torrent of words, to justify, to explain, to convince, to overpower. But this flood of speech often does nothing more than drown the very point you are trying to make. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself in his private writings to avoid unnecessary talk. He knew that true strength lies not in loud and lengthy arguments, but in the disciplined use of silence and the precise deployment of a few truthful, necessary words. Your goal in a disagreement is not to deliver a monologue, but to communicate with purpose. Before you speak, pause and apply a simple three-part filter to your words. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If your words fail any one of these tests, especially the test of necessity, then the most powerful thing you can do is hold your tongue. Think of a time you were in an argument that kept going in circles. Each person talks over the other, repeating the same points with increasing volume. Nothing is resolved, and both parties leave more frustrated than when they started. This is the chaos of ungoverned speech. Now imagine a different approach. Your partner is upset, listing complaints in a raised voice. Instead of immediately defending yourself with a long list of your own, you wait. You listen fully until they have finished. Then you take a breath and offer a single, concise sentence that gets to the heart of the matter. You might say, "I hear that you feel I have not been listening, and that is frustrating." This response does not concede a point you disagree with, but it validates their feeling. It is true, it is necessary to address the core issue, and it is a kind way to de-escalate. By speaking little, you create space for understanding to grow. By speaking well, you ensure that the words you do use are like a surgeon's scalpel, precise and effective, rather than a blunt instrument that causes more damage. Your silence is not an admission of defeat, it is the calm center from which your few, well-chosen words can carry immense weight. What argument in your life could be transformed if you replaced 100 heated words with one calm and truthful sentence? The fire of a heated argument can consume your entire world, but a single thought can extinguish its flames. Memento mori, the ancient practice of remembering you will die, is that thought. This is not a morbid fixation on death, but a profound tool for clarifying life. By holding the certainty of your own end in mind, you are forced to distinguish between what is truly essential and what is merely a temporary noise. That frustrating disagreement with a coworker over credit, that simmering resentment with a neighbor over a thoughtless comment, how will any of it feel on the final day of your life? The answer is, it will not feel like anything at all. It will have vanished into insignificance. This perspective does not make your current life meaningless. It makes your priorities razor sharp. Imagine you are about to have a difficult conversation with a family member. Tension is high, and you can feel the old patterns of blame ready to surface. Now pause and bring memento mori to the front of your mind. This conversation is one of a finite number you will ever have with this person. Your time together is not unlimited. Is winning this specific argument more important than the peace and love you could share in the moments you have left? The desire to be right suddenly feels heavy and pointless, while the desire for understanding feels light and urgent. Your own mortality is the ultimate deadline, and it forces you to stop wasting your precious hours on emotional battles that leave no mark on your soul. The next time you feel a conflict beginning to boil, ask yourself one simple question. Is this a hill I am willing to die on? For almost everything, the answer will be a clear and freeing no, allowing you to release the tension and choose a path of peace. Your anger in a conflict rests on a single, unquestionable assumption that the person across from you is deliberately choosing to be difficult. But what if that assumption is a fundamental error in perception? The 11th Stoic belief confronts this directly with a radical idea, one borrowed from Socrates, that no one does wrong willingly. People only act wrongly out of ignorance of what is truly good. In any disagreement, the other person is not a villain consciously choosing evil. They are simply mistaken. They are convinced in their own mind that their position is correct and justified. Your colleague who takes credit for your work likely believes they deserve it, or that the ends justify the means. The relative who insults your life choices genuinely thinks they are giving you helpful, if harsh, advice. They are acting from a place of intellectual and moral error, not from a conscious desire to do harm. When you truly internalize this, your entire emotional response must shift. The natural reaction of anger has no logical foundation. You do not get angry at a child for failing a math problem they have not been taught to solve. You feel patience and a desire to teach. You do not feel rage at a person stumbling in the dark for bumping into you. You feel a sense of pity for their lack of light. This is the precise mindset the Stoics urge you to adopt. The person shouting at you is stumbling in the dark of their own ignorance. They are mistaken about what is good, about what is true, about how to behave. Your response should not be a shout back into their darkness, but the quiet offer of a lamp. This does not mean you become a passive victim or that you excuse toxic behavior. It means you engage from a position of immense strength and clarity, because you are no longer personally wounded by their error. You see their action as a symptom of their ignorance, not as a targeted attack on your worth. The next time someone acts unfairly towards you, pause and reframe the situation. This person is not evil, they are lost. How might that single thought dissolve your anger and replace it with a calm, strategic compassion? That calm, strategic compassion becomes your unshakable foundation, transforming you into a rock against which the waves of conflict merely break. The Stoic ideal is not to become emotionally numb or hard-hearted, but to cultivate an inner resilience so solid that no external event can shatter your peace or compromise your character. Imagine a massive, ancient stone at the edge of the ocean. Storm after storm sends towering waves crashing against it. The water explodes into foam, roars with fury, and then simply recedes. The rock is unmoved. It does not shout back at the waves. It does not try to fight the ocean. It simply endures, its integrity completely intact. This is the posture you are to adopt in the face of any verbal or emotional storm. Your colleague's sharp criticism is a wave. Your partner's frustrated outburst is a wave. The unfair demand, the public insult, the relentless pressure, these are all just different kinds of weather crashing upon your shore. Your job is not to stop the ocean from being turbulent. Your job is to be the rock. How do you build this rock-like quality? It begins with a conscious decision about what you will and will not allow to penetrate your inner citadel. You decide long before the conflict arises that your self-worth and your peace are not up for negotiation. They are not dependent on another person's mood or opinion. When a wave of anger comes at you, you feel its force, you acknowledge its presence, but you do not let it dictate your response. You remain rooted in your principles. You might choose to respond with a calm word, or you might choose silence, but that choice comes from your core strength, not from a reactive impulse. This is not about being stubborn or inflexible in a discussion. It is about being so secure in who you are that you can listen to the most furious tirade without feeling the need to become furious in return. The wave crashes and it finds you still standing, still clear-minded, still in possession of yourself. That unwavering presence is often the very thing that calms the storm, as the frustrated person eventually exhausts themselves against your steady composure. What wave in your life has been trying to erode you, and how would it feel to meet it not with resistance but with immovable, peaceful solidity? That rock-solid presence transforms every barrier into a bridge. The 13th belief crystallizes this into a powerful mantra: the obstacle is the way. Your conflict is not a detour on your journey, it is the only route forward. The person blocking you, the problem frustrating you, the criticism wounding you, these are not walls to be torn down. They are the very materials you have been given to build your character and forge your solution. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius faced invasions, plagues, and betrayals, yet he wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. How does this work in a real disagreement? Imagine you are leading a team project and one member consistently resists your ideas, pointing out every flaw. Your initial story might cast them as an obstructive critic, an obstacle to your progress. You feel the urge to bypass them or to overpower their objections. But the Stoic shift is to see their resistance not as a barrier but as the path itself. Their criticism is the whetstone on which you can sharpen your proposal. Each of their objections is a gift revealing a weakness you are blind to. By engaging thoughtfully with their points, you are forced to improve your plan, to communicate more clearly, to build a more resilient case. The person you saw as the problem becomes your most valuable collaborator because they are providing the rigorous stress test your idea needed to survive. The obstacle, in this case their resistance, literally becomes the way to a superior outcome. Or consider a personal conflict where someone has deeply hurt you. The obstacle is the pain itself and the broken trust. The common impulse is to avoid that person, to bury the hurt, to pretend the obstacle does not exist. But the Stoic way is to walk directly into that pain. The obstacle, the fractured relationship, becomes the way to practice forgiveness, to cultivate profound empathy, and to communicate with an honesty you have never before mustered. The path to healing is not around the hurt, it is through it. The obstacle is not in your way, it is the way. Your goal shifts from eliminating the difficulty to using it, to allowing the friction to polish you into a more patient, more creative, and more virtuous person. What current frustration in your life is not a problem to be solved, but the very training ground you need? You can pour your entire effort into a difficult conversation while holding the outcome loosely in your open hand. This is the essence of the Stoic reserve clause, a powerful mental maneuver that separates your actions from your attachment to the results. You do everything within your power to resolve the conflict with wisdom and integrity, but you simultaneously accept that the final outcome is not yours to command. It is like a gardener who diligently tends to her seeds, watering them, ensuring they have sunlight, and protecting them from pests. She does her part with complete focus and care. But she does not then stand over the soil, demanding that a specific seed sprout by Tuesday. The germination, the growth, that is ultimately in the hands of nature. Her peace is found in the quality of her effort, not in the uncontrollable result. Apply this to a high-stakes negotiation at work. You prepare meticulously, you marshal your arguments with clarity, and you communicate with respect and firmness. You are doing your absolute best. The reserve clause is the quiet phrase you add in your own mind. I will do all of this, fate permitting. This means you are mentally prepared for any outcome. They might agree, they might refuse, they might ask for more time. By releasing your white-knuckled grip on the need for a specific yes, you disarm the entire situation of its power to frustrate you. If the deal falls through, you are not devastated because you know you performed your part flawlessly. The result was simply not fated to be. This is not apathy, it is a profound form of emotional freedom. You engage with the world passionately, but you do not chain your happiness to its unpredictable reactions. Your satisfaction comes from knowing you acted virtuously, regardless of whether the world gave you the applause you expected. How much more confidently could you enter your next difficult discussion if your sense of success was based entirely on your own conduct and not on the answer you receive? Your sense of success in a conflict is no longer tied to the other person's surrender. Belief 15 reframes victory itself, declaring that virtue is the only true good. In the Stoic worldview, external outcomes like wealth, reputation, and even winning an argument are classified as preferred indifference. They are nice to have, but they are not good in themselves. The only thing that is genuinely good is the quality of your own character, your courage, your justice, your wisdom, your self-control. This single idea turns every conflict on its head. The goal is no longer to get the other person to admit they are wrong. The goal is to ensure that you, yourself, act rightly throughout the entire exchange. Imagine you are in a dispute with a neighbor over a noisy party. The old definition of winning would be forcing them to be quiet and apologize, but under this new light, winning is redefined. Did you speak to them with respect instead of shouting? Did you listen to their perspective with patience? Did you act justly, seeking a fair solution rather than just demanding your own way? If you can answer yes, then you have already won, regardless of whether your neighbor turns the music down. Your triumph is internal and unassailable. They can refuse your request, but they cannot strip you of the integrity you displayed. This belief frees you from the emotional roller coaster of seeking external validation. Your peace does not depend on their compliance. You walk away from the conversation victorious because you upheld your principles, and that is the only prize a Stoic truly seeks. What argument could you transform today by making your inner integrity the sole measure of your success? That desire for comfort is a chain that ties you to emotional reactions. Stoic resilience is not built in the moment of crisis, but in the quiet, deliberate practice of stepping away from ease. This is the 16th belief, the principle of voluntary discomfort. You intentionally seek out small, manageable hardships to inoculate yourself against the shock of unavoidable ones. It is a training regimen for your soul, making you tougher and less reactive when conflict arises. Think of it like this: if you only ever walk on smooth, padded carpets, then stepping on a single pebble feels like a major injury. But if you regularly walk barefoot on uneven ground, your feet become calloused and strong. That same pebble is now a minor sensation, easily ignored. Voluntary discomfort is the process of taking off your emotional shoes. This practice can take countless forms. It might be taking a cold shower when a warm one is readily available. It could be skipping a meal to practice fasting or choosing to walk instead of drive. It is not about punishing yourself, but about reminding your nervous system that you can handle unease. You are proving to yourself that discomfort is not an emergency. How does this calm you in an argument? When your partner raises their voice, your body's ancient wiring screams that this is a threat, triggering a flood of stress hormones. You feel an intense discomfort, and your instinct is to flee or fight, to make that feeling stop at any cost. But if you have spent mornings standing calmly under a stream of cold water, you have a new relationship with discomfort. You have learned on a physical level to breathe through a challenging sensation without panicking. That raised voice is just another form of cold water. It is unpleasant, but you have already built the mental muscle to endure it without losing your composure. The discomfort of the conflict no longer controls you because you are the one who has chosen discomfort many times before. You can meet their emotional storm with the same steady breath you used in the shower, responding from a place of strength instead of raw, panicked reaction. What small hardship could you voluntarily embrace tomorrow to strengthen your calm for the next inevitable conflict? Your own mind is the one fortress no external force can ever truly breach. The Stoics envisioned an inner citadel, a stronghold of your reason and judgment that remains permanently secure as long as you choose to guard the gate. An insult is just a collection of syllables traveling through the air. A frustrating delay is merely a rearrangement of events in the world. These things have no power, no inherent meaning, until you grant them entry by your own conscious assent. You hold the key. The moment you take a harsh word personally, you have unlocked the gate and invited the chaos inside. The fortress is not compromised by the shouting outside its walls, but by the guardian who mistakenly believes the shouting is a valid reason to open the door. Think of the last time a stranger's rude comment ruined your entire afternoon. The comment itself lasted a second, but you replayed it in your mind 100 times, examining it, reacting to it, letting it occupy your mental space. You were not a victim of their words, you were the one who gave those words a home, feeding them with your attention until they grew strong enough to dictate your mood. The Stoic practice is to stand guard at that gate with relentless discipline. When a provoking thought or a painful event approaches, you do not let it in automatically. You challenge it at the entrance. You ask, is this within my control? Is this a truth I must accept, or merely an opinion I can reject? By withholding your immediate assent, you create a buffer zone between the external event and your inner peace. This is how you remain unshakable. The world can throw its worst at you, but it all shatters harmlessly against the walls of your citadel, because you alone decide what crosses the threshold into your soul. What thought have you been letting occupy your fortress that you could peacefully evict today? The walls we build between ourselves and others are illusions of our own making. Stoic cosmopolitanism tears them down, revealing a single city encompassing every human being. You are not just a citizen of your town or your nation, you are a citizen of the world. This belief, championed by thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, redefines every conflict as a domestic dispute within the same universal household. The person arguing with you is not a foreign adversary, but a fellow citizen of this vast human polity, someone with whom you share a fundamental connection. Your duty shifts from defeating them to engaging with them justly, for the health of the entire community depends on the harmony between its parts. Think of a time you witnessed two strangers in a bitter public argument. From the outside, it is easy to see how pointless and destructive their anger is for the general atmosphere. Cosmopolitanism asks you to apply that same objective view to your own disagreements. You are those two strangers, and the shared space you are disrupting is our collective human well-being. When a family member holds a political view you find abhorrent, the easy path is to treat them as an opponent to be silenced. The cosmopolitan path is far more challenging and far more rewarding. You see them as a citizen who has reached a different conclusion based on their own reasoning and experience. Your goal is no longer to win a debate, but to understand a fellow citizen's perspective, and if possible, to guide them toward a more virtuous outlook through your own calm and reasoned example. This does not mean you agree with them. It means you respect their membership in the common human project enough to engage with them civilly. Your quarrel is not with an enemy, but with a neighbor in the global city who has lost their way. How would your approach change if you saw every difficult conversation as a chance to strengthen the bonds of our shared citizenship? We have already explored the power of anticipating hardship, but the true mastery of this practice lies in its granular application. This is not a vague worry about things going wrong. It is the deliberate and detailed mental rehearsal of specific, painful conflicts. You move from imagining a storm to charting the exact path through its most violent squalls. Start by selecting a recurring or feared confrontation. Perhaps it is a weekly meeting where a certain colleague always challenges your authority. Now, close your eyes and construct the scenario with excruciating clarity. Do not rush. Hear the tone of their voice, see the dismissive wave of their hand. Feel the heat rising in your own cheeks as they interrupt you for the third time. This is where you build your emotional calluses. You are not avoiding the discomfort, you are sitting with it in the safety of your mind, allowing your nervous system to become familiar with the terrain of this particular battle. The goal is to feel the initial sting of the provocation, acknowledge it, and then practice your response. What is the single, calm sentence you have pre-written for this moment? Maybe it is, "I hear your concern, let me finish my point and then we can address it." You rehearse saying this while your heart is still pounding in the simulation. You visualize taking a slow breath before you speak. You feel the weight of your own decision to respond with clarity instead of reacting with heat. By doing this, you are not just preparing for a conversation, you are carving neural pathways. When the real event occurs, it feels like a familiar drill. The emotional shock is diminished because you have already faced this demon in the arena of your imagination, and you know exactly how to disarm it. Your pre-planned response is no longer a line you have to remember. It is a reflex you have already conditioned. Which specific, difficult conversation have you been avoiding that you could begin to disarm tonight in the quiet of your own mind? A sharp word flies across the room and your entire body tightens in an instant. That reaction feels automatic, a switch flipped by someone else. But there is a hidden space between that word and your tension, a fleeting moment where your real power lies. This is the domain of the 20th belief, the discipline of assent, perhaps the most advanced and transformative Stoic practice for mastering conflict. Assent is simply your agreement, your inner yes to a first impression. When someone insults you, the initial impression is, "I have been attacked." The undisciplined mind instantly assents, shouting yes to that thought, and the flood of anger immediately follows. The discipline of assent is the conscious decision to withhold that yes. It is the mental equivalent of catching a ball before it hits you, examining it, and then choosing whether to hold onto it or simply let it drop. You intercept the raw data of an event before it becomes a destructive emotion. Your partner snaps at you after a long day. The initial impression is they are being unfair and disrespectful. Your training begins right there. Instead of agreeing and snapping back, you pause. You introduce a question between the event and your reaction. Is this impression true? Is it the whole story? Perhaps their tone has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the stress they brought home. By withholding your immediate assent, you break the chain. You're no longer a puppet jerked by every external string. You become the observer, the analyst of your own mind. This pause, this moment of analysis, is where your cool-headedness is born. The insult is no longer an undeniable truth you must react to, but merely one possible interpretation among many, and you hold the authority to choose the most rational one. That space is the birthplace of your freedom. How many conflicts could have been avoided if you had simply given yourself the gift of a single questioning breath? That single questioning breath reveals a universe operating not on chaos, but on a hidden, intelligent order. This is the profound comfort of the 21st Stoic belief, the role of providence. The Stoics saw the cosmos not as a random collision of atoms, but as a single, living, rational entity. Everything that unfolds, from the rotation of the planets to the most frustrating argument in your kitchen, is an integral part of a benevolent, interconnected whole. Even the conflicts you face are not mistakes in the system. They are necessary features designed to teach you, to strengthen you, or to guide you toward a different path. When you truly internalize this, your relationship with adversity transforms from one of resistance to one of trust. The universe is not your adversary, it is your wise, if sometimes stern, teacher. Think of a time a project you desperately wanted fell through. In the moment, it felt like a catastrophic failure, a sign that the world was against you. But looking back, you can likely see how that closed door forced you onto a new path that led to something far better, perhaps to a job you love or a relationship you would have never found. Providence is the belief that this benevolent redirection is not a lucky accident, but the fundamental nature of reality. The difficult person in your life is not an error in your universe. They are a precisely placed chisel, however uncomfortable, meant to sculpt your patience and your empathy. The conflict that feels like a roadblock is actually a divinely placed sign rerouting you toward your true destination. This does not mean you become passive. You still engage with the world, you still work to resolve disputes with wisdom and justice, but you do so with the unshakable trust that the ultimate outcome, whatever it may be, is for the ultimate good of the whole. Your frantic urge to control every interaction and force a specific result simply melts away. You can argue your point calmly, not because you are attached to winning, but because it is the rational, virtuous thing to do in that moment, and then you can release the result to the wisdom of the cosmos. How much lighter would your shoulders feel if you trusted that every difficult conversation was, in its own mysterious way, exactly where you were meant to be? Your own calm becomes a silent argument more persuasive than any words you could shout. This is the heart of the 22nd Stoic belief to lead by example. In the middle of a disagreement, your most powerful tool is not a clever retort or a well-reasoned defense, but the unwavering model of your own virtuous behavior. You cannot force another person to be calm or reasonable, but you can become a living demonstration of what calm and reason look like, creating a mirror in which they might see their own agitation reflected. Your primary goal is not to change them, but to uphold your own character, and in doing so, you offer them an invitation to rise to your level. Think of a time someone was yelling at you, their face flushed with anger. The natural, reflexive pull is to match their volume, to mirror their frustration. This creates a destructive feedback loop where both of you are dragged down together. The Stoic intervention is to break that loop by refusing to participate. You consciously choose to become the opposite force. You stand firm in your calm, you listen without interrupting, and you respond in measured, respectful tones. You are not pretending to be calm, you are actively choosing it as a strategic and virtuous response. This does not guarantee they will calm down, but it completely changes the dynamic of the conflict. They are no longer arguing with a fellow combatant, but with a pillar of composure. Their anger, with nothing to latch onto, often begins to falter and exhaust itself. Even if it does not, you have still won the only victory that matters. You have proven to yourself that your character is not for sale, that it cannot be purchased with someone else's bad behavior. Your peaceful presence in the face of their storm is a silent, powerful lesson for both of you. Who in your life could you influence today, not by demanding change, but by embodying the peace you wish to see? You are not your reputation, and you are certainly not the harsh words someone uses to describe you. This is the liberating truth of the 23rd Stoic belief that nothing external can ever truly harm you. What does that mean when you are standing there, feeling the sting of an insult or the heat of rejection? It means the real you, your core character, and your capacity for virtue remains completely untouched by those events. Think of your true self as a diamond. People can throw mud at a diamond all day long. The diamond gets dirty. It might be temporarily obscured from view, but its fundamental nature, its hardness, its brilliance is completely unchanged. The mud cannot scratch it. The mud cannot make it less of a diamond. In the same way, criticism, gossip, or losing an argument is just emotional mud. It can land on you, it can be unpleasant, but it has zero power to alter your essential worth. The only thing that can genuinely harm you is your own choice to act viciously. If you respond to that mud slinger with rage, with malice, with pettiness, then you are the one choosing to tarnish your own character. You are taking the external event and using it as an excuse to betray your own principles. That internal betrayal is the only real injury. A public failure might bruise your ego, but it cannot damage your virtue unless you let it make you bitter or dishonest. A personal betrayal can break your heart, but it cannot corrupt your integrity unless you choose to become cynical and cruel in response. The harm is never in the event itself, but in the poor character it might provoke you to display. So the next time you feel wounded by an external attack, ask yourself one simple question. Is this event making me act in a way I will later regret? If the answer is no, then you're weathering the storm with your diamond soul fully intact. The mud will wash away and you will still be you, unbroken and whole. What insult have you been carrying that you can finally recognize as nothing more than dirt on a surface that can never be truly stained? Your energy is a finite resource, and every conflict presents a choice for how you will spend it. The 24th belief is the art of acquiescence, the graceful acceptance of unchangeable facts. This is not surrender to the other person, but a strategic surrender to reality itself. In any disagreement, there are elements you can influence and elements you cannot. You cannot change the other person's mood, their deeply held beliefs, or the actions they have already taken. Fighting against these immovable objects is like trying to push back the tide with your bare hands. It is a guaranteed path to exhaustion and frustration. Acquiescence is the moment you stop pushing and instead acknowledge the water for what it is. Your partner is in a foul mood and snaps at you over a minor issue. You cannot reach into their mind and rewire their emotional state. That is the tide. To argue against their mood, to demand they cheer up, is a futile expenditure of your precious mental energy. Acquiescence means you internally note they are in a bad mood today, and you consciously decide not to take the bait. You do not absorb their negativity or try to fix it. You simply let that reality exist without resistance, which frees your focus for the one thing you can control, your own calm and measured response. Or perhaps you are dealing with the aftermath of a mistake someone else made. The action is in the past, it is done. Raging against what has already happened is like shouting at a chapter you have already read. Acquiescence is closing that book and asking, given that this has occurred, what is the most constructive step I can take now? This art conserves your inner resources, channeling them away from futile battles and toward creative, productive solutions. What unchangeable fact in a current conflict are you wasting your energy fighting? And what could you do with that energy if you simply let it go? That final release is the ultimate form of resilience, rooted in the most fundamental law of the universe. Every argument, every moment of tension, is a temporary arrangement of matter and energy destined to dissolve. The 25th and final Stoic belief is the simple, profound reminder that this too shall pass. No emotional storm, no matter how violent, has the power to last forever. The intense anger you feel in a confrontation is not a permanent state. It is a passing weather system moving through the landscape of your mind. The conflict itself is a brief chapter, not the entire book of your life. Holding this awareness is like carrying a compass on a difficult hike. It keeps you oriented toward the long view when the immediate path is steep and rocky. When you are locked in a bitter disagreement, your focus narrows to the intensity of the present moment. It feels all-consuming, as if this single clash defines your entire reality. But the Stoic practice is to consciously pull back that lens. Remember the last major argument you had, perhaps 6 months or a year ago. Can you still feel the raw, white-hot emotion of that moment? Or has it faded into a memory, a story you tell with far less charge? The heat always dissipates. The sharp edges of conflict are inevitably worn smooth by the relentless flow of time. This is not a call to dismiss your current feelings, but to place them in their proper, temporary context. Your frustration is real, but it is also fleeting. This perspective grants you the endurance to navigate short-term turbulence without being capsized by it. You can choose to breathe, to respond with principle, and to wait because you know with certainty that the wave of emotion will recede. The silence will return. The sun will rise on a new day, offering a fresh start and a clearer head. What feels like an unending battle is merely a single scene in a much longer and ultimately more peaceful story. Carry this truth with you into every difficult conversation, and you will find an unshakable patience, knowing that no matter how dark the moment seems, it is only ever just a moment. These 25 beliefs are not just ideas, they are a complete operating system for the mind, rewiring your most fundamental responses to conflict. You began this journey seeing arguments as storms to be weathered, and you now have the tools to become the calm eye at the center of every one. The shift is profound, moving you from a state of reactive emotion, where you are tossed by every wave of anger and frustration, to a state of proactive virtue, where you choose your responses with clarity and purpose. You are no longer a passenger in your own life, buffeted by the moods and actions of others. You are the captain steering your ship with the compass of Stoic wisdom. This transformation is not about suppressing who you are, but about becoming the most resilient, clear-headed version of yourself. The next time you feel that familiar heat rising in a disagreement, you have a choice. You can fall back into the old, exhausting cycle, or you can pause and reach into this new toolkit. Do not feel you must master all 25 beliefs at once. The most powerful way to begin is to choose just one or two that resonate most deeply with you right now. Perhaps it is the simple practice of pausing to ask what is within your control. Maybe it is the mental shift of seeing the obstacle as the way, or it could be the quiet strength found in remembering that this too shall pass. Take that single belief and carry it with you into your next difficult conversation. Use it as your anchor. Notice how it changes the dynamic, not necessarily of the other person, but of your own inner world. We would love to hear about your experiences. Which belief did you choose, and how did it transform a conflict for you? Share your story in the comments below. Your journey toward unshakable cool is just beginning, and every challenge you face is another opportunity to practice your peace.